Next.js 15 just dropped, and in this video I will guide you through the changes fast and to the point. So without any further ado, let's get started. The first major change is the transition to Async Request APIs. So we can see it here, the old way just called cookies, but the new way is we need to await for the cookies in order to get them. And in traditional server-side rendering, the server waits for a request before rendering content, but not all components actually depend on request-specific data, like headers, cookies, or search parameters. So why wait? The idea behind this change is to let the server prepare as much as possible before a request even arrives. Sounds efficient, right? But since it's a breaking change, it affects multiple APIs, and your code may need to be updated. Luckily, you can still access these APIs synchronously for now, but they will trigger warnings until you fully migrate. So these are the APIs that will change. Cookies, headers, draft mode, params, layout, page, route, and so on. Search parameters as well, so whenever you use them, don't forget to make use of await. But if you don't want to upgrade your codebase by hand, don't worry though, there's a code mod. For those who aren't familiar, code mods are like little scripts that help automatically update your code when Next.js introduces changes. The second big change is the caching behavior. Vercel heard your feedback on caching, and they're making some important changes in Next.js 15 to make things more intuitive. Let me break down what's changing. First up, the get route handlers are no longer cached by default. In Next.js 14, these were automatically cached unless you told them not to be, but now it's the other way around. If you want caching, you will need to explicitly opt in using something like export dynamic for static. The second big change is to the client router cache. Previously, your page components were cached by default, but now they will have a stale time of 0. In plain English, this means when you navigate around your app, you will always get the freshest data from your page components. But don't worry though, your layouts will still work the same way, and the back-forth navigation will still use the cache to maintain that smooth scrolling experience. Plus, your loading.js files will still be cached for 5 minutes. But if you want to retain the previous behavior, you can continue to opt in caching by simply applying this configuration in your Next.js config. The next change you will like, at least for me. It's a huge improvement in how Next.js handles hydration errors. If you've ever encountered hydration mismatches, you know how frustrating they can be to debug. In Next.js 14, when you hit an hydration error, you get rather a cryptic message that didn't provide much context about what went wrong or how to fix it. But now in Next.js 15, they completely transformed this experience. Hydration errors now display the source code of the error with suggestions on how to address this issue. In version Next.js 15, the app router uses React 19 RC, and Vercel also introduced backwards compatibility for React 18. So with React 19, you will get the React compiler, which means you don't need to use useMemo or use callback anymore, since the compiler is doing this job for you. Turbopack has reached stability for Next.js development environments. This update transforms the development experience with significant performance improvements across the board. With Turbopack's stable release, you can expect faster development cycles, improved hot reloading, and better overall performance. Try it in your next project by adding the turbo flag to your development command. The next change is quite unusual. Next.js has introduced a new static route indicator that appears during development. When you're working on your application, you will now see a visual indicator showing whether each route is a static or dynamic. This helps you instantly understand how your pages are being rendered without diving into the code. The next change is super cool. So you can now run code after the response is sent. So you first return the response to your user, and then you can start things like logging or analytics without affecting the overall response time. To activate this experimental feature, you first need to activate it in your Next.js config. Then import the unstable after function from Next server package, and if you like, you can also give it an alias, and then you can simply use it by calling it inside your server component, server actions, route handlers, or middleware. The next change is super interesting for all the DevOps and monitor people. So the Instrumentation.js file with its register API are now stable in Next.js, enabling performance monitoring and error tracking. To use Next.js instrumentation, create an instrumentation.js or TS file in your routes folder. This file centralizes the observability tools and error tracking setup. The register function runs once when a Next.js server instance starts, making it ideal for initializing monitoring services, and it supports async operations, and this allows you for setup tasks like OpenTelemetry integration. The onError function handles the server-side error tracking for server components, server actions, route handlers, and middleware. It accepts the error object, request info, and context, and it supports async operations for accurate error reporting. The next change genuinely surprised me, where Cell, known for their tightly controlled ecosystem, is making significant moves toward better self-hosting support. Let's have a closer look at those changes. First, you now can configure the expire time directly in your Next.js config. This setting determines how long your CDN will serve cache content while fetching fresh data in the background. The default value has been updated to 1 year, which ensures the optimal CDN compatibility. Next, Next.js now respects your custom cache control headers. Previously, these would have been overwritten by default values. This gives you better control over caching behavior, making it easier to optimize performance for your specific CDN setup and requirements. Previously, you had to manually install Sharp for image optimization when self-hosting, and now Sharp comes automatically with Next Start and standalone mode. These changes make Next.js more attractive for companies with strict hosting requirements or specific infrastructure needs. What do you think about this strategy shift? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, especially if you're currently self-hosting Next.js or considering it. If you want to learn more about the improved self-hosting capabilities, definitely check out Lee Robinson's YouTube video where he goes into those details. So the next change will improve the security aspect of my beloved server actions. Many developers weren't aware that server actions in Next.js are essentially post API endpoints under the hood, and this means that every server action you create becomes a publicly accessible HTTP endpoint, even if you're not using it in your application. Next.js has introduced automatic dead code elimination for unused server actions, and here's how it works. So during the build process, Next.js now automatically removes any server actions that aren't imported or used in your application, and this not only improves security but also reduces your JavaScript bundle size. The second major security enhancement involves how server actions are referenced. Next.js now generates unguessable, non-deterministic IDs for each server action, and these IDs changed between builds, are cryptographically secure, and prevent unauthorized access through endpoint guessing. So we've covered the most important changes in Next.js 15. If you want to see all these changes in action, I've created a GitHub repo with working examples of everything we discussed today. I will include the link in the description of this video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.